As a child, I believed families were supposed to lift each other up, but growing up I discovered that some families are built on pedestals where only one person gets to stand at the top. Our modest suburban house buzzed with constant activity and voices, but the energy often felt more like a performance than genuine connection. Our living room had transformed from a cozy family space with mismatched cushions and a worn-out rug into what looked like a professional photo studio, with ring lights and camera equipment dominating every corner. The walls were decorated with printed screenshots of Bianca's most popular Instagram posts. Bianca with her latest makeup tutorial hitting 100K views, Bianca at her first brand collaboration event, Bianca posing with expensive skincare products. Some photos of me were mainly tucked behind the ring light stands or partly obscured by Bianca's growing collection of ring light accessories. One afternoon, as I was carefully moving camera equipment to clean the living room, Mrs. Caldwell, our family friend and my mom's former teaching colleague, came over. A warm aroma of freshly baked cookies filled the air, her standard visiting treat. "Hi, Margaret," she greeted, enveloping my mom in a hug. "How are the girls?" Before my mom could reply, I stepped forward, offering a tray of iced tea. "Hello, Mrs. Caldwell." She looked up, her eyes brightening as she noticed me properly. "Oh, Natasha. Look at you, so grown up and responsible." "Thank you," I responded, feeling a genuine warmth in my chest. My mom quickly interjected, "Wait till you see what Bianca's been up to. She just hit 50,000 followers." On cue, Bianca glided into the room, her blonde hair perfectly styled and makeup camera ready even at home. "Mrs. C," she exclaimed, striking a pose before giving her a careful hug that wouldn't mess up her contouring. Mrs. Caldwell smiled politely, though I caught a flicker of something in her eyes. "My goodness, Bianca. You certainly know how to present yourself." Bianca beamed, immediately pulling out her phone to show her latest posts. The conversation flowed easily after that, Bianca scrolling through her feed and showing off her engagement statistics and brand partnerships. At some point, I tried to join the conversation, mentioning my recent work helping a family reunite through the social services department. My mom waved her hand dismissively. "That's nice, dear," and immediately redirected the topic back to Bianca's latest sponsored post. I could feel that familiar tightness in my chest, the desperate need to matter, to be seen as more than just background noise. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, highlighting the camera setup, I overheard my mom's voice drop to a whisper. "Honestly, I don't know why Natasha chose such a depressing job when she could see how successful Bianca is." Mrs. Caldwell's expression hardened. "Margaret, that's unfair. Natasha is helping families. That's meaningful work." Bianca looked up from her phone, confusion flickering across her perfectly contoured features. "I just mean," my mom tried to explain, "that with Bianca, everything just clicks naturally. She knows how to succeed." I felt my throat constrict, the weight of never being enough crushing down on me. Mrs. Caldwell, sensing the tension, tried to redirect the conversation. "Both your daughters have found their paths, Margaret. Different doesn't mean less valuable." Bianca tilted her head, her voice carrying that practiced sweetness she used in her videos. "Mom, are you saying I'm more successful than Natasha?" My mom hesitated, then reached over to adjust Bianca's hair for another impromptu photo. "You're both special in your own ways, sweetheart." Hearing those words, I quietly excused myself and retreated to my room. The sting of being constantly compared to a carefully curated online persona burrowed deep, forming wounds that would take years to heal. Balancing my social work degree with 2 part-time jobs wasn't the typical college experience most students enjoyed. Every morning started before sunrise at the campus coffee shop, preparing caffeine fixes for bleary-eyed students and faculty. Afternoons meant rushing between social welfare classes and study groups, then evenings found me shelving books at the university library. I'd drag myself home exhausted, only to find Bianca sprawled across the living room couch, surrounded by ring lights and makeup palettes, filming her latest "Get Ready With Me" video. Our family dynamics had crystallized into a simple formula: Bianca was the shining star, and I was the invisible stagehand. One evening, during a rare family dinner when our schedules actually aligned, I gathered the courage to share a decision I'd been wrestling with for weeks. "Mom, Dad, I've been thinking about getting my own apartment closer to campus," I began carefully, watching their faces for reactions. My announcement landed like a bomb in the quiet dining room, followed by Dad's incredulous laugh. An apartment? On what you make pouring coffee and shelving books? Bianca looked up from her phone where she'd been editing her latest post. What's next, Tash? Gonna live in your car? I turned to Mom, hoping for understanding. I've been saving every penny, and I've calculated the budget carefully. Mom set down her fork, her expression doubtful. Honey, you barely cover your expenses here. Do you really think you can handle rent and utilities? It's not about taking the easy path, I said, feeling my voice tremble with determination. It's about proving I can make it on my own. Bianca snorted, not looking up from her phone. Big talk from someone who's never paid a real bill in her life. Frustration boiled over, and I shot back, maybe you should try earning money through actual work instead of begging strangers for likes. She finally looked up, rolling her eyes dramatically. At least my work doesn't involve cleaning up other people's messes for minimum wage. Mom raised her hands. Girls, stop. Natasha, we're just worried about you struggling when you don't have to. I understand your concern, I replied quietly, but sometimes struggle builds character. The following days brought hushed conversations behind closed doors and Bianca's pointed comments about my poverty fantasy. But my determination only grew stronger. A week later, I loaded my few belongings into Dad's pickup truck and moved into a tiny studio apartment near campus. The space was small and the furniture secondhand, but the independence felt intoxicating. Though my family lived just 20 minutes away, the emotional distance between us felt oceanic. My decision had fundamentally shifted not just where I slept, but how my family saw me. The city lights twinkled beyond my apartment window as I hunched over a thick case file, scribbling notes in the margins. My phone's shrill ring cut through the quiet concentration, and seeing Bianca's name made my stomach clench. We hadn't spoken in months, not since our last explosive argument. I hesitated, then swiped to answer. Hello, Bianca? Silence stretched between us, unusual for my typically chatty sister. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat and emotionless. Listen. Dad's dead. The words hit me like ice water. What do you mean, dead? Her exhale was sharp and impatient. Heart attack. Sudden. The paramedics tried, but he was already gone. My chest tightened as reality crashed over me. Oh God. How's Mom handling this? Bianca's tone remained eerily detached. About as well as you'd expect. She won't eat, won't talk, just sits staring at his recliner. I closed my eyes, picturing our childhood home now shrouded in grief. And you? How are you dealing with all this? For just a moment, I heard a crack in her composure. I'm managing, but that's not why I called. Before I could process that, she launched into her real agenda. Look, I have brand commitments and content deadlines. I can't babysit Mom 24 hours 7 days. You need to come home and handle this. Her casual cruelty stunned me. She's not a burden to be handled, Bianca. She's our grieving mother. Bianca's voice turned sharp. Don't lecture me about responsibility. I've been here while you played house in your little apartment. Time to step up. Every instinct screamed at me to hang up, but I swallowed my anger. This wasn't about Bianca's selfishness right now. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. I'll come home. But I'm doing this for Mom, not because you demanded it. Her response dripped with fake sweetness. Perfect. I knew you'd see reason. Don't take too long, okay? The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. Dad was gone, and somehow I was already being manipulated into cleaning up the mess. But Mom needed me, and that was all that mattered. Walking back into my childhood home felt like entering a mausoleum. The house that once buzzed with activity now hung heavy with silence and sorrow. Despite mentally preparing myself for the worst, nothing could have prepared me for the reality. Mom, who had always been our family's anchor, appeared fragile and broken. Her eyes, once bright and determined, now stared blankly at nothing. She barely registered my presence, trapped in her private world of grief. Bianca, however, remained perfectly vocal. Look who finally decided to show up, Bianca announced as I set my bags down, her voice sharp with accusation. I ignored her barb and went straight to Mom, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Mom, I'm here now. We'll figure this out together. She nodded absently, her attention somewhere far away. That evening, while I cooked dinner, I caught fragments of Bianca and Mom's conversation drifting from the living room. Words like a selfish, abandonment, and a career obsession punctuated their whispered discussion. I couldn't hear everything, but the message was crystal clear: my years of independence were being dissected and judged. Dinner was a minefield of tension. Every forkful felt loaded with unspoken resentment. Finally, I broke the suffocating silence. Mom, I know I haven't been around much, but I'm here now, and I want to help you through this. Mom set down her fork and looked directly at me for the first time. Natasha, it's not about now. It's about all those years when you chose your social work clients over your own family. I needed you, and Bianca was here. Bianca leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smirk crossing her face. Some people understand what family loyalty means. The accusation stung, but I pushed back. I worked hard to support myself so I wouldn't be a financial burden. Every time I offered to help, you said everything was fine. Bianca rolled her eyes dramatically. Always the martyr, aren't you? The rest of the evening dissolved into bitter exchanges and hurt feelings. The distance between the life I'd built and the family I'd left behind felt insurmountable. Later, lying in my childhood bed, I felt crushed by their expectations and wounded by their blame. Coming home was harder than I'd ever imagined. I'd always been the responsible one, the daughter who showed up when everyone else checked out. Moving back home meant becoming Mom's full-time caregiver, a role I accepted without question. It felt like the right thing to do, even if it meant sacrificing my own life. But no matter how hard I tried to make her comfortable, nothing I did was ever good enough. Each morning I'd prepare her breakfast exactly how she liked it and attempt cheerful conversation, only to hear complaints about the coffee being too weak or the eggs being overcooked. I'd swallow my frustration and promise to do better tomorrow. One evening, while washing dishes, I overheard Mom on the phone with Bianca in the next room. She tries, but she just doesn't have the touch. I don't know why she bothers, Mom's voice carried clear disappointment. Instead of defending me, Bianca piled on. I warned you this would happen. She's always been clumsy with people. The words hit me like physical blows. I was sacrificing everything, my apartment, independence, peace of mind, only to be treated like an incompetent burden. These cruel conversations became routine, chipping away at my self-worth daily. During a particularly exhausting shift at the social services office, my phone rang. Bianca's name appeared on the screen. I answered reluctantly, bracing myself for another round of criticism. Her voice was icier than I'd ever heard it. You need to leave. Mom can't handle having you there anymore. You're making her depression worse. The words knocked the breath out of me. But then something inside me snapped. I was done being everyone's scapegoat. Fine, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll go. But I'm taking everything that belongs to me. I could practically hear Bianca's shock through the phone. She'd expected me to grovel, to beg for another chance. Those days were over. I was finished being the family's unpaid servant and emotional punching bag. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. It was time to stop letting them define my value and start living for myself. Morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, illuminating my modest possessions scattered throughout the house. The television, microwave, and coffee maker weren't expensive, but they represented months of careful saving and sacrifice. Today, they would become symbols of my liberation. I moved systematically through each room. In the kitchen, I unpacked the appliances I'd bought during lean months when I chose saving over socializing. The coffee maker had been my faithful companion through countless early mornings. Each item carried memories, but the bitter ones had begun drowning out everything else. My bedroom came next. I carefully wrapped the lamp I'd found at a thrift store and the comforter I'd saved up for. Grandmother's jewelry box would stay, not from sentiment, but from principle. As I sealed the final box, my phone exploded with an incoming call. I didn't need to check the caller ID. You thieving witch. Bianca's voice crackled with rage. Everything I'm taking belongs to me, I replied calmly. I figured you'd be happy to see it all go. You can't just steal from our family home, she shrieked. I almost laughed. Isn't it interesting how my belongings suddenly became family property the moment I decided to reclaim them? You're destroying everything because of your pathetic ego. This isn't about ego, Bianca. This is about respect and finally standing up for myself. She made a disgusted sound. Always playing the victim. Return everything and maybe we can work this out. I have receipts for every single item. Every purchase came from my paycheck. You should have considered that before kicking me out. My voice remained steady despite the fury coursing through me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of resentment. You always need the last word, don't you? She finally spat. This isn't about having the last word, I said, feeling the weight of decades of silence lifting. It's about finally finding my voice. I hung up before she could respond. The boxes were packed, the past was behind me, and an uncertain but hopeful future stretched ahead. In the months following my break from family, I discovered who I really was. My confidence solidified, and I built a life where I controlled my own narrative. With my family's numbers blocked, my phone stayed blissfully quiet, and I tasted freedom for the first time in years. I saw them again only at Mom's funeral. Dressed in black, I stood on the periphery, watching my family's final performance from a distance. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken grievances and barely contained drama. Everything felt surreal, faces blurred together, conversations became white noise. The will reading took place in the attorney's sterile conference room. Despite having zero interest in any inheritance, small-town gossip kept me informed about every detail. Predictably, Bianca inherited everything, but neither of us had expected the crushing debt that came with it. The family home sold quickly, but the proceeds barely scratched the surface of what was owed. I watched Bianca's expression shift from entitled satisfaction to horrified disbelief as the lawyer methodically listed each debt, mortgage, and unpaid bill. Family members whispered around us, how could they owe so much? Poor Bianca, complete financial ruin. While I felt a small ache for the house itself, I couldn't suppress a sense of cosmic justice watching Bianca confront this reality. For years, she'd enjoyed security and comfort while mocking my independence and frugality. Now karma had delivered its own brutal lesson. I left both the funeral and will reading without looking back. The town's gossip meant nothing, and Bianca's financial crisis wasn't my concern. I had built my life piece by piece on my own terms, and that foundation was unshakable. 2 years had passed since I'd cut ties with my family. My career as a social worker had flourished, and my cramped studio apartment no longer suited my growing success. I'd been house hunting for months when I stumbled across a familiar post on social media. There was Bianca, looking exhausted and defeated, standing among moving boxes in front of our childhood home. The caption read, "New chapter ahead. #blessed. #new beginnings." The comments were full of concerned friends asking what happened. A quick search revealed the truth. Her influencer income had dried up, and she was drowning in debt. I was reviewing mortgage pre-approval documents when my phone rang. Bianca's name flashed on the screen. "Hello, stranger," I answered carefully. Her voice was artificially bright. "Hey. So? I need to ask you something." "I'm listening." "I need financial help. The house has to go, and I'm completely underwater." I almost laughed at the irony. "We haven't spoken in 2 years, and you're asking me for money?" "We're family," she said desperately. "That argument didn't work when you threw me out," I replied coolly. "I'm not giving you cash, but I'll make you an offer." She waited. "I'll buy the house at your debt value." "That's it." After a long pause, she whispered, "Deal." The paperwork took weeks to finalize. Standing in the doorway with the keys in my hand felt surreal. The house that had once represented rejection and pain now symbolized my complete independence. I renovated every room, erasing the old memories and creating new ones. Bianca never called again. In the home where I'd once felt invisible, I finally found peace.